On today's Weenie Envy, Kor Spiritdancer. Originally from Rise of the Eldrazi, Kor Spiritdancer is, of course, a great card for enchantment and aura type of decks. Works very well in Tiny Leaders decks with a Pillow Fort type of strategy. Although you can't really play Sphere of Safety, it still works though. For 1/1 white, you get a 0/2 creature. It gets +2/+2 for each aura attached to it. And whenever you cast an aura spell, you may draw a card. Now, it's important to point out that you can actually cast Bestow creatures. By casting them with their Bestow cost, they are aura spells instead of creature cards. And you would actually receive the +1. You'd be able to draw a card. Oh, it's too early for this. Anyway. So the Kor Spiritdancer works with that type of a strategy. You can play Ethereal Armor, you can play many different cards that work well with the strategy. Plus, it's fair to note that this is also a good prowess trigger type of strategy because these are non-creature spells. And yeah, it's it works very well with a lot of different cards. If it were up to me, I would probably play something like green-white, possibly green-white-blue, and just having access to that many different aura spells and creatures that are affected by auras is a good strategy. The Spiritdancer itself gets +2/+2 for each aura attached to it, but you could also play things like, well, let's see, you could play the new cards. There's a new one from Khans of Tarkir, a common, I believe, that's 2/1 white, 2/2 creature, it gets +2/+2 for each aura that's attached to it. Then you could play other cards that get a boost for each. I think it's one of them is Ephemerif Enchantress. I mean, there's a lot of green and white strategies that benefit from playing a lot of enchantments. If you could use them to draw extra cards, use them to pump up abilities. Aura Gnarlid, for example, gets +1/+1 for each aura, not even yours, but also your opponent's. This triggers when you cast Pacifism, when you cast Arrest, when you cast so many different cards that are also, you can use them on your opponent's creatures to keep them from being able to attack or use abilities. So it's a strategy that is, I guess, still Pillow Fort, but you're getting something out of it, and you could potentially pump up your creatures to attack. Now, if you were playing this in Tiny Leaders, not sure exactly which legendary creature you'd want to go with to play green and white, but you could also put this in a Marath type of deck. Use a commander or a Tiny Leader that doesn't necessarily have as much to do with it, but in those colors, in green, white, and red, you'd have access to Nyxborn Rollicker, you'd have access to things like Fire Whip, or any number of cards that can boost your creature's abilities. Now, you can also go with this in a Jeskai strategy. You can use Shuyun, the Silent Tempest, and play things like Jeskai Ascendancy. Whenever you cast one of these aura spells, not only do you get to draw the card from this, but you could possibly draw an extra card and discard one of them, keeping your auras flowing. You could also use its ability to pump up all your creatures +1/+1 and untap them. So if you use any effects that allow you to tap your creatures for mana, you'd be able to potentially cast out your entire deck onto one creature and then swing out, perhaps even unblocked. So, Kor Spiritdancer. Decent card from Rise of the Eldrazi. Worthwhile to look into because it fits into so many different decks. So I hope you're having a wonderful morning, wonderful afternoon, or wonderful evening. I hope tomorrow is even better. Take care, everybody.